Jeffrey Epstein, a trending topic, a name that today stands for the deep rot in global power, in corruption, exploitation, impunity. And now, after the unredacted Epstein Files were released, the world is finally seeing the architecture behind his empire of influence and secrecy. Everyone knows about it, everyone's speaking about the really juicy bits, but people are ignoring something that matters a whole lot more in Bangladesh. Bangladesh is in these files, but not at the center, but at the edges of a global system that should wake us up. This is not just America's scandal, it's a mirror for Bangladesh. Here's what the files actually show. There's mentions of Bangladeshi organizations like Grameen Bank, ICDDRB, and BRAC in Epstein's correspondence, but no evidence of prosecution or wrongdoing by Bangladeshis. Epstein wanted to attach his brand to international development, and Bangladesh came up as a health and climate project location or charity, and not as a hub for Epstein's crimes. Essentially, these are Epstein's personal comments and his attempts to engage in health-related or charity projects in Bangladesh. It's not a legal document or an evidence of a crime. It could have been an attempt in money laundering, perhaps. But there is no solid evidence or trail for this. It's not the thing we should be focusing on. And this matters. This matters because the narrative in Bangladeshi media cannot let misinformation take hold. We cannot hide behind this. Facts are facts. However, what this does tell us is simple, yet very profound. Powerful networks, even when they don't directly involve us, touch us indirectly. Epstein wasn't operating in a vacuum. He was part of a global elite ecosystem where development, philanthropy, politics, influence, and secrecy all intersect, and Bangladesh, a rising nation at the crossroads of global interests, was on that map. Epstein's real business wasn't just exploitation, it was social capital with the very powerful. Let's be clear before anyone twists this, Epstein's crimes were horrific. It was evil, satanic, something the world has never seen before. That wasn't a side detail, but here's also another truth. Epstein didn't survive for decades because he was a criminal. He survived because he was protected. The crimes were horrific, but the system that allowed them to continue is the real monster. Now let's bring that back home. Bangladesh doesn't have an Epstein Island, but it does have entrenched power networks. It has elites who sometimes operate beyond scrutiny. It has institutions that at times struggle with independence. Let's look at Bangladesh's own landscape. There's chronic corruption embedded in politics and institutions where elite society members have always had the chance to evade accountability. If Epstein teaches one thing, it's this. It's that power without accountability always devolves into abuse. Epstein escaped justice for years because of powerful protectors and global elites who valued network over good governance. That sounds very, very familiar, something we're very aware of in Bangladesh. Jana থাকতে হয়. Bangladesh has struggled with these similar patterns. There's anti-corruption bodies that need governmental permission to investigate their officials. Institutions that protect elites rather than their own damn citizens. This is the lesson that no journalist has shouted loud enough, or maybe they were just afraid to for all these years. Yes, Epstein was a monster, but the underlying global reality is this. It's that exploitation can thrive where poverty and weak governance intersect. According to the 2025 U.S. Department of State Trafficking in Persons report, there were 3,410 documented Bangladeshi victims of trafficking last year, including 2,572 forced labor victims and 765 sex trafficking victims. That's not conjecture. That's documented numbers. And these are just the reported numbers. International organizations tell us that the real numbers are far, far higher because official counts drastically underreport the true scale of exploitation, especially for forced labor and debt bondage. Bangladesh ranks among the top countries in Asia for the prevalence of modern slavery. It ranks 9 out of 27 countries and 56 out of 160 countries globally as per the 2023 Global Slavery Index, with over 1 million people living under modern slavery conditions at any given time. So now you can ask yourself, how does a nation that is resource-rich, vibrant, young, also become a factory supplying forced labor all over the world. Because let me spell it out. Bangladesh today is a story of contrasts. The country has one of the largest overseas workforces in the world, with tens of millions of Bangladeshis working abroad, sending back billions in remittances, more than 20 billion US dollars a year, which makes up around 8% of GDP. Every year, millions leave because they feel they have no future at home. That's the situation our leaders have created for us. They are exported as cheap labor, often low skill, because that's all the economy currently demands from them. Even when these workers do go abroad legally, they're exploited, underpaid, trapped under debt to their their dalals, and vulnerable to trafficking networks. Isn't that brutally ironic? Because for a country with fertile soil, mangrove forests, rich ecosystems on the planet, Bangladesh, Amar Shonar Bangla, a country with a booming garment sector that supplies clothes to the world. If I go to my local Kmart 5 minutes away, everything I touch, I can see a Made in Bangladesh tag on it. Should I be proud? Should I feel sad, pathetic? A country that could feed and employ its own people, and yet we export millions, only for many to end up in forced labor or dangerous conditions abroad. Why? Because while Bangladesh has resources, the wealth and opportunity created by these resources don't stay with the people. They're siphoned off by elite intermediaries and cronies who benefit from keeping the labor force cheap, mobile, disempowered. The amount of profit that these agencies make from one successful applicant alone is almost the same, if not more, than what that applicant will earn a whole year or more in these terrible conditions abroad. Now let's zoom out for a second. Everyone was outraged by Epstein, and rightfully so. They should be. The names were exposed, files were released, networks scrutinized, the world went insanely crazy. But where is that same energy when Bangladeshi men die building skyscrapers in the Gulf under brutal conditions, when workers are tortured in Malaysia or Saudi Arabia, their passports confiscated by their employers, and they're kept imprisoned, paid shockingly low wages, and forced to work harsh conditions? They're humiliated, unable to reunite with their families for years. When female domestic workers are sexually abused, beaten up, and tortured by their dalals. Where's your outrage then? I read a story that came out about 2 weeks ago on ABC News. It was quite underreported. I was quite shocked hearing it. It was a village in Lakshmipur when men leave home all the time to work overseas. It's very normal. It's survival. So when a recruiter, a dalal, promised Maqsudur Rahman, a janitor job in Russia, about $1,000 to $1,500 a month approximately, maybe even permanent residency was promised to him in Russia. It sounded like a lifeline. He borrowed nearly $10,000. That's about 1.2 million taka, Bangladeshi taka. He said goodbye to his family. He flew out in December 2024. He expected to clean floors in a military camp. He had just finished up a contract role in Malaysia, and he went to Russia. And within weeks, he found himself holding a weapon on the front lines of the war in Ukraine. An Associated Press investigation also found that Maqsudur Rahman and many other Bangladeshi workers were tricked. When they arrived in Moscow, they were handed documents in Russian, and they were told that these are job contracts. They signed it. They had trust in these people. Only later did they learn they just enlisted themselves in the Russian military. One commander reportedly told Maqsudur Rahman through a translation app, because obviously language barrier is a thing, "Your agent sent you here. We bought you." They were threatened with 10-year prison sentences, told that they would be shot if they refused orders. Language barriers just made things worse. Simple misunderstandings could lead to severe punishments in Russia. These families in Lakshmipur say that their husbands and their sons had left them for jobs as chefs, electricians, or factory workers. That's what they were promised, only to later send desperate messages saying that they were being forced into battle in other countries. Some disappeared completely. Investigators in Bangladesh later uncovered what appears to be a trafficking network. These dalals and middlemen allegedly profiting by funneling desperate workers into military contracts. Police believe dozens of Bangladeshis may have died. Many families say they never received a single dollar that their loved ones were promised. They never saw a body. So what's the purpose of all this? Why is no one saying anything about this? Is it because it's not trending? So look, guys, I am going to call you out for a second. And this includes many of my friends, many of my family here in Australia and Bangladesh. Stop pretending you know everything about Jeffrey Epstein. Stop trying to make it a trend. Stop yelling on about it just because it's fashionable right now. A week ago, his name meant nothing to you. You had no idea who he was. I'm quite certain you don't even know the entire story fully either now. And suddenly you're an expert. You're sharing clips. You're sharing your hot takes just because the story's spicy and you want to be included in the trend. Meanwhile, our own people are being trapped in misery. They're exploited, forced to leave their country, and nobody bats an eye. And that includes children. So don't waste your energy just scrolling and talking. Use this as a lesson, learn from it. Look at the systems at home that allow this exploitation to thrive, the elites who profit from our labor, and the corruption that robs people of their dignity. And the policies that have continued to fail our citizens. That's the real crisis, and that's right under our very noses. The elections are coming. This isn't about who speaks better, who's from which family, what anyone tells you to do. This is your right, your voice, your fundamental right as an adult, your chance to finally be proud of your country, authentically and truly be proud. And you get to play a role in it. So vote critically, demand accountability. Look at which party is taking serious action against what's happening with these crimes. Bangladesh doesn't learn from the Epstein scandal merely by noting its appearance in a few emails. It's all a distraction. The real question isn't was Bangladesh involved with Epstein? It is, are Bangladesh's institutions strong enough to resist the kind of embedded power networks that enable Epstein possible anywhere? If not, then Bangladesh remains on the same spectrum of vulnerability that allowed the world's richest men to evade justice for decades. And that, my friends, is what Bangladesh must learn from the Epstein Files. Vote wisely.